Why do Hindus have one particular god that they worship? And how is that god selected to be the god that they worship throughout their life? In Sanatana Dharma, Hinduism, the Devatar tradition is one of the most important aspects of the tradition itself, but it is one of the most confusing for those who live outside of India. Within India, of course, everyone knows what the Devatar tradition is. Even for myself, when I first visited India over 15 years ago, I was always confused as to how a certain Devatar was chosen for each particular person. Now, when I say Devatar, we're talking about the so-called gods here of Hinduism. But we need to think about the gods here in a different aspect. There are some gods that are a representation of Brahman, the ultimate reality, and they are Shiva and Vishnu. But then you have the attendants of these gods, where you'll have the son or the daughter or the wife or another helper who are, as I said, the attendant to what Shiva and Vishnu would be called the Ishta Devatar, right? So below that we have the other Devatars. So we have Ganesha, we have Skanda, and we have Parvati. We have all of these type of gods, but they are aspects of the ultimate reality. Even Shiva and Vishnu themselves represent different aspects of that one ultimate reality. Some say that Shiva represents the ascetic aspect, the meditative, the recluse, while Vishnu represents the cultural aspect of the Sanatana Dharma tradition. But nevertheless, we have this tradition, right? This Devatar tradition. So how does a Hindu actually get the Devatar, right? So usually the Devatar will be given to the child when they're young. This is your God going forward. This is who you will worship. But worship's an incorrect word. Build a relationship with is what we need to understand, which I'll get more into. But you are given this God to build a relationship with over your entire life. Now, that's usually based on the temperament of the child. And so some say that, if the child has a temperament towards more of being more meditative, more calm, more of a loner in some sense, they might gravitate more to Shiva. Or if they're highly intelligent and have a good emotional center, maybe they'll gravitate towards more like Ganesha. And so there's a lot of different aspects as to why a Devatar is chosen for a young child, but usually that's how it goes. It usually is based on a temperament. But then we also have the Kula Devatar. Now, the Kula Devatar are ancestral deities, right? And so the ancestral deity is one that's passed down through the family. And so sometimes you are just given that Devatar because you are part of that family and you're just living on that tradition, which is very beautiful. I love that lineage aspect of the deity tradition in Hinduism. But a lot of the times it's usually based on the temperament of the person. And so for myself personally, I naturally gravitated more towards Shiva and Ganesha, not only because of my life in South India, but also because of my temperament towards knowledge and the ultimate knowledge actually of Advaita, and kind of being someone who will go away to the mountains to be in sadhana. And that's just what feels comfortable to me, to go away to the mountains, to be absorbed in the knowledge, to be a temporary ascetic, you could say. I'm not like hardcore, like someone who's like a yogi who goes up into the mountains. But my temperament and my attraction to Shiva particularly was just something that was purely innate. And this is usually what happens for most people, not just Indians, but people outside of India who are drawn to Sanatana Dharma. They feel an affinity with a particular god because it represents, in some sense, an aspect of themselves. And that's what's important in this tradition. Now, getting back to the word worship, right? People outside of India will use the word worship. Now, in India, there's the word bhakta. Now, bhakta means devotion to a god or to the ultimate reality, or actually through the god as a vehicle to the ultimate reality. In some sense, to an attendant of the ultimate Ishta Devata. So, for example, if people worship Ganesha, Ganesha is in some sense an attendant to Shiva, right? So they build a relationship with that Devata to have a relationship with the Ishta Devata. Now, so we're not talking about worship here. We're more talking about a devotional relationship you have. It's almost similar to the devotional relationship you have to your parents or your siblings. But in some sense, this is a relationship of the sacred, even though obviously you can have a sacred relationship with your family and your loved ones. There's no doubt about that. But this is something different, right? This is with an aspect of the ultimate reality. And so what the purpose is here is that when you get whatever Devata it is in your life, you build a relationship with that Devata over your life, and your devotion to that Devata is reciprocated as you move on through your life. For example, if you are authentic to this path and actually in devoting to your life to that Devata, there will be a response through that commitment. And the ultimate purpose of this relationship and being fully committed and earnest to one particular Devata is that it prepares your Jivatman. Now, Jivatman here translated is actually your soul, what we would say soul. Jiva is persona system. Atman is the undifferentiated consciousness that is one with Brahman, the ultimate reality. And when they are entangled like this is what lives life after life, the Jivatman, right? This is what comes back life after life, because the Jiva has not been cleansed out of your being. And so you are not abiding as Atman. So the thing is that the Jivatman is being prepared for moksha, for release, for liberation in this life. That's the point of being devoted and being committed to a particular Devata, because that commitment is reciprocated through the release of the Jiva. So your full commitment to that deity is what gives you that. So think about it in this sense, right? If you are fully committed to Shiva, what is the energy of Shiva? The energy of Shiva is to abide in the ultimate Brahman, the ultimate reality of existence, and not drawn into worldliness. So if you're abiding in that energy constantly, you're thinking about it, you're worshipping, or you are devoted to Shiva in that way, that becomes a reflection of the deity. You become a reflection of the deity. So in building a relationship, you become that reflection, see? That's the point. And so a lot of people get that confused. They don't understand the system well enough. But that's what it's all about. It's in building that relationship that gives you the possibility of moksha, because you are becoming a reflection of that deity. And then that opens the possibility within you to abide in your true pure nature and to abide in the ultimate nature of the universe, which we all are, and you are that. And we experience that through the Devata. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.